Guys, we have two undisputed title fights on the line this Saturday. In the main event, Alex Pereira will defend his light heavyweight title against Jamahal Hill. Hill used to hold that title, never lost it actually, had to relinquish it because of a serious injury. You know the story. He tore his Achilles heel last July, trying to be like Mike. Didn't work out for him, but he's back. He's healthy. He's ready to go. Pereira defeated Yuri Prochazka for the vacant title along the way, and here we are. All right, guys, so let's talk about this main event. It's going to be a doozy. It didn't come off well, like the splash that I think everyone wanted for the main event for UFC 300, but these are some gangsters. What do you think, Matt Wells? Is this thing up to par with UFC 100 and 200? Are we shortchanging these cats?
I think we are kind of shortchanging them a little bit, because when you look at, the main event of UFC 100, what do we have? We have Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir, heavyweight title fight, biggest star in the sport at the time, arguably, in Brock Lesnar. You definitely had number 1A or number 2 in the co-main event with GSP. So I think the combination of those two really kind of set that apart for UFC 100. But that was an incredible main event, and it lived up to the billing for UFC 100. UFC 200, man, we had. I think we all remember the chaos there, right? We were supposed to get Daniel Cormier versus John Jones, and then we had the drug test of fight week, the DC foot stomping on Embedded, and then we end up with Amanda Nunes and Misha Tate, which, I mean, hell, that ended up being pretty cool in hindsight, considering what Amanda Nunes went on to do. With this main event for UFC 300, though, it's not that same star power, although I think it could be when we look back on it in the future, because you have to look at what Alex Pereira has done so far. Just a few fights into the UFC, claimed a title, right? And he won his first title in fight number 4. And then, he loses, and he comes back to win a second title in a second division in fight number 7. A two-division champion already this quickly. This is a guy that's already a Hall of Famer, right? Already going to be a Hall of Famer. What's he going to do from here on out? I know he's not going to have that super long run because he's 36 years old already, but he's already built an incredible resume in a short period of time. So I think in hindsight, when we look back on this in a couple of years, depending on what he does from this point on out, especially if he wins this fight, we're going to be talking about, man, that was incredible for him to get that spot at UFC 300. But on paper, as it stands right now, it's not the same star power that a lot of people were really hoping for, although this is an incredible fight. Jamahal Hill, first Dana White Contender Series champion. He also won the belt very quickly in his 7th fight. So, I mean, there's a lot to like about this fight. But those critics out there, they're gonna be, real nitpicky. They're gonna be like, oh, it should have been Conor, it should have been, GSP making a big return. It should have been John Jones. But, people are going to complain about any and everything. But this fight right here is still an incredible fight, and I think it's one that's worthy of carrying this card.
Matt, is the UFC doing a good enough job of hyping it, or is it going to be up to us, media, and other hardcore fans to remind people, hey, Hill versus Teixeira didn't suck. And then the fights that Izzy had versus Pereira, they didn't suck. So, we're literally got two freight trains headed for each other in the main event. But yet again, it's fight week now. We're all going to get jacked, but still, it seems like there's something missing here. Did the UFC maybe shortchange these two guys too?
GG, everything is always up to the media, from promoting fighter pay to promoting events.
Yeah.
We all have to do. We have to do the work here. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be real here. Take a look at the poster. Do you know who's fighting? No, I have no clue, because they decided to put no fighters on this poster.
You're saying it's not as good as this one back here, Matt?
Listen, that was so much better. UFC 200, the original UFC 200, where everybody was kind of circled around. Incredible posters. Why they just decided to do a gold flag with nobody and then put in fine print, hey, these guys are fighting. Wait, come on, dude. That's ridiculous. You got to put faces on the poster. Always put faces on the poster. It's incredible.
No,
yes, we are going to bear the brunt of this, I believe.
Media's fault, always.
Goes, what's the level of excitement for this main event? But I want to ask you specifically, you're in Vegas. You've been out and about. We've had some relatives in town, friends. I mean, are we seeing the hype around the city?
Not just yet. But look, you have to remember there's a WrestleMania card that just happened. March Madness has been out of control. So I think now is when everybody's going to start to turn that page. As soon as that fight's or that game's over tonight, think people will start to turn the page and it'll all become fight weekend stuff. But right now it's pretty calm. Levels of excitement for the card, I'm crazy. I'm out of my mind. I can't wait for it to happen. For the main event, I think I'm going to get there, guys, but I'll be honest with you. The difference between this fight and maybe what we get in other cards is those goosebumps, right? That you get at the end because there's something crazy on the line or there's some heat in between the two fighters. We don't have this. And that's okay because the card overall is fantastic, right? I kind of say it's sort of like if you go to an amusement park and the top two attractions are closed down. Yeah, it's going to suck a little bit, but you're still going to have a good time, right? You're still going to go to all the other rides. It's still going to be fun. I think that's what's going to happen with this card. I think there's going to be a lot of highs and a lot of lows, but this type of fight and the positioning of it is so important because you don't want to walk out of that arena. You don't want to turn off your TV with something that you just saw that was boring or flat. These are two fighters that don't give you any of that. All they give you is excitement. So I think even though maybe star power might not be there, the level and intensity that these guys bring, I think that's what's going to leave us with a good feeling at the end of the night.
All right. So we went to Goes for a take because he's the local in town. Danny, let me go to you to something different here. Hablemos MMA. It's almost like you have a different type of audience. What's it been like the last few months? Have people been slowly approaching a level of excitement for this card, for this main event? And then tell me about you were at UFC 299, where people are already turning the page once that event was over and talking about UFC 300 there.
I feel like for the hardcores, I mean, this is on the map. UFC 300 is huge one because it's 300, right? We're celebrating 300 pay-per-view events in what it is the best company that's ever existed as far as mixed martial arts is concerned. But as far as like the casuals, I don't know if it's a change in times because I feel like there's just so much going on in the world now than before when UFC 200 went down or UFC 100. But I just feel like among the casuals, this doesn't seem that big of a deal. And I don't know if it's because of the main event, not having a Conor McGregor, not having a John Jones, not having a Brock Lesnar or these superstars that really make it known that, hey, this event's coming up. I hope that changes. We've seen some pay-per-views and some events just change drastically as soon as we get closer to the date. Just one little phrase, one little jab at a press conference or at a media day or a brawl or a push can just ignite the whole thing. And all of a sudden we're talking like crazy about UFC 300. But I do feel like going into it, this should have more hype. I blame it on the poster, not MMA media. But all in all, the hardcores, the people watching this right now, the people over at Hablemos MMA, I feel like we're all pretty hyped. I mean, dude, freaking Davison Figueiredo and Cody Garbrandt is opening up the first preliminary fight. This could easily be the pay-per-view opener of the UFC 301 event in Brazil, or even just part of that main card. This from top to bottom is stacked. For a hardcore, this is amazing. This is as good as it gets.
Mm-hmm. All right, chat room. If you're watching through Facebook or YouTube, you can participate in the show. Leave a question, leave a comment. The better ones, the more quality ones, are the ones that I'm going to be drawn to, and I'll include them in the show. I saw Catted asking, is this live or pre-recorded? It's live. It's a 90-minute show. We started just a few minutes ago, so you haven't missed much, right? Tell a friend, retweet, repost, share, all that good stuff. We still got a long ways to go. This show's weekly, and it's noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific every Monday. It's called Spinning Back Clique, and it's here. It's this junkie team that gets together to discuss the biggest topics in MMA. Today, we're discussing UFC 300. So we're talking about the main event. I want to know who the chat thinks is going to win, Hill or Pereira. And any of you guys, are you willing to reveal your hand? The staff picks come out every week on Junkie, and we're doing all the fights. What is it, guys? 12 or 13? We're doing all of them.
13.
And you readers you can also participate in that as well on the front page of MMA Junkie. But any of you guys want to tip your hand? Who do you like? Give us a mini breakdown. None of us are Tom, but we all have some knowledge.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a little bit of mystery though with this fight. Normally, look, if we were to say the best Jamahal Hill is going to show up, then I think the breakdown of this fight is a lot different. But because there's that little bit of mystery, did he just take this fight to make a paycheck? Is he 100%? That's what kind of keeps the intrigue here and what may or may not happen. If you tell me a 100% Jamahal Hill showing up, I think the experience is what's going to get Alex Pereira in this fight. He's really good at one thing, and he's phenomenal at it, right? He's been able to put people away with it. But Jamahal Hill has pretty decent fight IQ, and he can mix things up and he can get nasty. If the best Jamahal Hill shows up, for me, I feel like it's Jamahal Hill that wins this one. But there's a little bit of mystery there, and that's what kind of keeps us a little confused, I think, when we're breaking down this fight.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think part of the issue when you look at breaking down this fight is like it comes down to who's gonna, I guess, lose a little bit of patience first. I think Hill has a little bit more of that patience to kind of pick his shots, because we see Alex get a little bit wild sometimes where he gets a little bit over aggressive. That's why he got knocked out against Izzy, I think, because he just started wailing on him against the fence, left himself wide open for a counter. And I think Hill rather is a little bit more patient in those spots, and he'll wait and kind of pick his shot a little bit better. But both guys are capable in ending this fight at any moment. So I think that's really the intrigue here. I think if you are a betting man or a betting woman, betting person out there, I think, inside the distance finish for one of these is going to be a safe bet. Just comes down to who is it going to be.
Mm-hmm. And Danny, we do have like a 4-year age difference, but there's a lot of wear and tear on Pereira's chin. How much do you think that's going to get talked about this week? Because Hill's heavy-handed, man.
That is 100% true. He's got a mixed martial arts career on top of him, but also a lengthy kickboxing one. But I do feel like his move up to 205 has given him a little bit more life, a little bit more juices in the brain, and so I do feel like chin wise he will be okay. If he gets knocked out, I don't think it's gonna be the chin, right? We'll see what kind of shot lands from Hill, but I do feel like it's gonna be more like a Hill thing. I don't necessarily think or feel he enters UFC 300 with a questionable chin. I mean, he just fought Rakic, not Rakic, but Prochaska, and took some big shots and managed to survive and, get the finish. So I do think anybody can win this just because they're two strikers with power. It's light heavyweight. But man, Pereira, I think he's got all the momentum. He's just been killing it right now. I do feel like this is the best MMA version of Pereira, even better than the one that became champion at 185. And look, as you mentioned, Hill's coming off an injury, layoff. He was supposed to fight at UFC, those are the rumors that this plan was supposed to go down a few weeks later. So I don't know how recovered he is from that injury. And look, at the end of the day, I just think the matchup is just horrible for Hill, right? Like Hill shines in the striking department, right? He's not really much of a wrestler, of a grappler, and he's getting arguably right now the most credentialed striker in mixed martial arts. So I feel pretty comfortable in picking Pereira here. Or Pereira, sorry. So I'm going to go with Pereira and Still.
Man, he's got to blend things together, though. He's got to blend them together, because you're right. If they go tit for tat, shot for shot, there's one guy that's just incredibly skilled at this. I think Hill's got to mix things up, man. He's got to do it early. One factor that I did want to touch with you guys, and I think Matt touched on it a little bit as well, patience, I think, is going to be very important in this fight, but it's hard to be patient when you are the main event of the biggest card ever in history. Who's going to break first? If they start to boo, if things are a little slow, who's going to be that fighter that breaks first because of the magnitude of this fight, where they were placed, the trust that's been instilled in them by the organization? I think that could maybe play a little bit of a factor in this fight. And it's a fight where the margin for error is so tiny.
One last thing here, and then we'll move on. Pereira's, I think, on his 4th fight in about a year, too. How many times have we ran into that where we go, they need that break? Like the fighters pick up a lot of momentum when they fight often, especially when you're wrapping gold around your waist, right? But at some point, that wear and tear of the training camps, guys, it's not the fight so much. I mean, of course, that has something to do with it, but the training camps itself, you think that might be a topic, a storyline here? I haven't heard too much about that one.
That's a good point. And I mean, part of the issue is as well, it's kind of like wear and tear versus a well-rested Hill. But also that question mark of, is Hill going to be 100% coming out the injury? So there's a lot of dynamics at play here that make this fight really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Let me stick with you, Matt, here. Let's talk about the co-main event. See Danny's poster up there. We got Brock. That was the draw, right? 1.6 million pay-per-views 16 years ago or something like that. Mm-hmm. He's backed up with Frank Mir, who wore gold. He was a Vegas local. But look at the next guy. GSP co-main event. Solid co-main event. This one, let's respect those gals. They deserve where where they're at. We have a quality number one contender against a quality champion, but it's just not popping on the streets like they say. You think that's kind of hurting things, you know? Because we're gonna have some fun discussing BMF in just a second, but this fight right here, what's lacking?
Well, I think one of the things going for this is that, I mean, it's again, it's not that huge star power yet that people were expecting, right? Because like you said, in the co-main of 100 was GSP. Everybody was going crazy for that. Are these two ladies like that star power yet? No, they're not, and unfortunately. But I mean, they're both incredible fighters, and I think, you know, Zhang Weili has a lot going for her to where she could be one of those names in the future. I mean, she's already the first Chinese champion in UFC history. She's a powerful, like, scrappy fighter who's got, you know, every skill in the book, so she can do it all. I know that, you know, the fans on her side of the globe will be really amped for this fight. I think stateside, though, we're just not as excited for it because, you know, she can't cut the promo in English and stuff like that, and, you know, that's kind of the things that some people are drawn to, right? But she's getting better at those things over time as well. So she's also very exciting. So I think that will kind of make up for, I guess, the language barrier, so to speak, between both of these ladies. But it's an incredible fight on paper. But does it meet that level of expectation that the fans were wanting for UFC 300? No. But it's an incredible fight. And an interesting little tidbit about this fight and the main event, everybody has identical UFC records going in. Both of them are 8-2 with Xiaonan and Zhang. Both of them are 8-2 in the UFC. Like the main event, 6-1 as well. So that's kind of a little interesting little side piece here, a little tidbit of information. But there's a lot to like about the fight. But again, as people are in the chat have been saying about this and the main event, it's just not that star power that we would expect for UFC 300 because Dana White hyped it up to be this super next level, massive mega event with all of the stars in the world. And we kind of got oversold on that. But we still have an incredible fight.
Danny, she's a two-time champion, Weili, and she's going for her third title defense. Where do you put her as far as GOAT talk? Do you anoint her that already? Could she be that on Saturday night, or she still got a few steps to go?
No, she's got multiple steps to go, in my opinion. I think the conversation as far as the strawweight GOAT is very clear here, and there's only one good name for that, and that is Joanna Jędrzejczyk. 6 title defenses, maintained the belt for a while. You know, I have an issue sometimes, and you see there's a lot of in boxing. You see a lot of boxers brag, "Oh, I'm a 2-time, 3-time world champion." Well, that means you lost the belt. That means you lost the belt, and you had to come back and get it. Like, and that's fine. That's admirable for sure. But let's not forget about the consistency here. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, I know that she lost to Zhang Weili, but you can't do MMA math within GOAT talk. You got to look at the resumes. She defended the belt 6 times at strawweight. It was a force that you cannot compare. There hasn't been another champion that dominant in the division. Like Rose lost the belt, Zhang Weili lost the belt, Carlos Esparza lost the belt. It just seems that they keep swapping and trading the belt. There hasn't been consistency, something that Joanna Jędrzejczyk gave us. So Zhang Weili, great fighter. Can she go on to become the GOAT? Maybe. She's definitely done a lot, and she has the platform to do so. We'll see what the next few years look like, what Saturday looks like, because Xiaonan is no easy opponent. But as of now, I think the conversation is pretty clear, and that spot remains for Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Danny, real quick, if Rose is listening and she says, "I kind of beat her twice. You sure you don't want to reconsider me as the GOAT?" What would you tell her?
Look, you can't make the MMA math. Rose, yes, she beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk twice,
right? You like
right,
the run,
but like you got to look at the body of work.
True.
Like, how long did she defend the belt? How long did she stay at the top? Right? No, that's Joanna Jędrzejczyk 100%.
Goes. This was the division that popped for women's MMA. Has it lost its shine, or is it just because they're in transition? Where are we here?
I mean, it's lost its shine a little bit. These divisions, there's very few divisions that just maintain, right? Lightweight is just always a beast, right? But for the most part, they can be roller coasters. I think it's lost a little shine because you look at like a Lupe Godinez or Mackenzie Dern, the Tabitha Ricci's of the world that were kind of promising us something in the future. They've kind of fizzled out a little bit. And so it's left us with not very much to look forward to. But Tatiana Suarez, man, I'm telling you, that is a tough out. She can come in here and she can really change things. And the other way around, too. If Zhang Weili can beat her, I think that probably cements her, the GOAT, because Tatiana Suarez is no joke,